Now we're finding out maybe the best NBA trainer in the absolute business.
For the first 3 years, this is happening with me and Caitlin Clark. So Caitlin Clark finished her rookie season.
I didn't mention it in my cold open, but I'm going to mention it now, and that's Caitlin Clark. Silence about Caitlin Clark and potentially working with her to make a healthy recovery.
Would like to train Caitlin Clark this off-season.
The drama surrounding the sudden removal of Aya Wilson from the USA women's basketball setup did not unfold with a press conference or a dramatic announcement. It happened quietly, decisively, and with a finality that stunned those who believed legacy alone guaranteed permanence. 4 years, Wilson stood as the uncontested symbol of dominance in women's basketball. MVP trophies, championships, endorsements, and media reverence had created an aura around her that felt immovable. She was not just a star, she was the standard. The kind of player whose presence shaped narratives, whose voice carried weight in locker rooms and boardrooms alike. But power in elite sports rarely disappears in a single moment. It erodes when the landscape changes and the person at the center refuses to change with it. That shift began long before any roster decision was made. It began when Caitlin Clark entered the national consciousness not as a slow-burning prospect, but as a cultural event. Clark did not wait her turn or politely orbit existing stars.
Thank God we got to put to bed these kind of ridiculous rumors.
She bent the gravitational pull of the sport toward herself with deep-range shooting, fearless confidence, and a style of play that transcended systems and whistles. Arenas sold out weeks in advance just for her presence. Television ratings spiked in ways women's basketball had chased for decades. Fans who had never watched a single game suddenly cared deeply, passionately, and consistently. The spotlight widened, but it also moved, and that movement exposed a fault line that had been forming beneath Wilson's dominance. Instead of embracing the moment as a shared elevation for the sport, Wilson responded as if something personal was being taken from her. The reaction was not explosive at first. It was subtle, restrained, almost deniable. Social media activity that felt pointed. Commentary that emphasized longevity and real impact at carefully chosen moments. An undercurrent of skepticism that followed Clark's achievements like a shadow. Over time, that restraint faded.
Last summer, but I was gonna have to go to Indianapolis. And I respected.
The contrast between Clark's rise and Wilson's response became impossible to ignore. What should have been framed as a thing of the torch began to look like a tug of war over relevance. Behind the scenes, decision-makers were watching closely. International basketball does not operate on sentiment or history. It demands adaptability, composure, and a willingness to subordinate ego to collective purpose. Team construction at the highest level is as much about emotional reliability as it is about talent. Coaches and evaluators observed not just on-court performance, but patterns of behavior. They noted how players responded when attention shifted, how they handled competition from within their own ranks, and whether their presence unified or fractured the environment around them. Over time, Wilson's reactions painted a picture that clashed with what international competition requires. There was also a technical reality that complicated Wilson's case. Her dominance in the WNBA had been built within a specific ecosystem, one that rewards physical initiation and frequent trips to the free throw line. International officiating does not offer the same protections. Physical play is expected, not penalized. When whistles disappear, efficiency must come from skill that cannot be negotiated away. Evaluators saw a version of Wilson that struggled to maintain rhythm when calls did not come, when contact went unacknowledged, when the game flowed without interruption. It was not a judgment of her career.
In my opinion, this was one of the craziest things that we saw from Team USA.
But an assessment of fit, and fit matters more than reputation when margins are thin. By contrast, Clark's game traveled effortlessly. Her scoring did not depend on officiating generosity. It came from range that stretched defenses beyond comfort, from footwork that created space where none existed, from reads that punished even minor mistakes. When contact arrived, she adjusted and finished. When pressure mounted, she leaned into it. That self-contained style is invaluable on the global stage, where consistency and adaptability separate gold from disappointment. More importantly, Clark's demeanor under scrutiny signaled something evaluators trust deeply. She absorbed criticism without retaliation. She acknowledged veterans without diminishing herself. She framed opportunity as responsibility rather than entitlement. When the preliminary selections were finalized and Wilson's name was absent, the reaction reportedly confirmed every concern that had been quietly building. The response was not acceptance or resolve.
Every other number was fine. These referees, the sign was 2-1 for 21, 2-2, 22, 2-3, 23.
It was disbelief, followed by anger, followed by frantic attempts to reclaim ground that had already shifted. Explanations were floated. Narratives were tested. None held. The absence was not logistical. It was philosophical. USA Basketball had made a statement about the future, and that statement did not include bending around a single personality. What followed only sharpened the contrast. Clark responded with gratitude and restraint, framing the opportunity as a chance to learn and contribute. Wilson's camp moved in the opposite direction, signaling grievance rather than growth. For selectors tasked with assembling a unit to represent a nation under relentless global scrutiny, the difference mattered. International competition magnifies everything. Frustration becomes visible. Body language becomes narrative. One destabilizing presence can undo months of preparation. Coaches know this because they have seen it happen. This was not about erasing Wilson's achievements or diminishing her impact on the game. It was about acknowledging that eras change, and that leadership in one moment does not automatically translate to the next. The modern game is being reshaped by players whose appeal is global, whose skills are portable, and whose mindset prioritizes collective success over individual validation. Clark embodies that shift, not just through scoring, but through how she carries herself when the spotlight burns hottest. The decision signaled more than a roster adjustment. It marked a recalibration of values. Favorable whistles, entrenched hierarchies, and unchecked entitlement are losing ground to versatility, professionalism, and emotional intelligence. The sport is expanding, and with that expansion comes accountability. Players are no longer judged solely by what they have done, but by how they respond when the game asks them to share space with the future. Power rarely collapses in front of an audience. It fades in private rooms, through conversations that end differently than expected, through evaluations that weigh more than box scores. What felt permanent becomes provisional. What felt earned becomes reassessed. Wilson's exclusion did not happen because she failed on the court. It happened because she failed to adapt off it. Clark's inclusion did not come from hype alone. It came from alignment with what the next phase of women's basketball demands. As the global stage approaches and new faces define the identity of the program, one question remains unavoidable. Is this moment an isolated decision, or the clearest signal yet that women's basketball is entering an era where legacy opens doors, but character decides who stays inside? And if the balance of power truly is shifting, who will recognize it in time, and who will be left arguing with a past that no longer listens? If this breakdown gave you a new perspective on what's really happening behind the scenes in women's basketball, drop your thoughts below. Do you think this decision was inevitable, or could it have played out differently?